So today we're going to talk about challenging segregation, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. All right, in a previous video we talked about legalized segregation in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson that established the doctrine separate but equal. What this meant was you could keep an all-white school and an all-black school as long as they were equal. That was not the case at all. They were never equal. The white schools were always better, white restaurants were always better. So this came to a head in the 1950s. So in the 1950s, segregation of public schools was in the law in 17 southern states. But some African-American parents started trying to enroll their students in white schools, and it kept getting denied over and over. So those parents started suing those boards. And all of these cases were consolidated into one case by the Supreme Court. And in 1954, the Supreme Court made the case of Brown v. the Board of Education of Topeka. It's usually just called Brown versus the Board of Education. In this case, the man by the name of Oliver Brown, he was the plaintiff. He brought the case against the Board of Education, and he brought it on behalf of his daughter, Linda Brown. Oliver Brown was the plaintiff, so that means he brought the case. And what it was is he tried to enroll his daughter in a school, in an all-white school in Topeka, and was denied that opportunity. So he sued the school district. This was just all of them put together into one. Thurgood Marshall, who we'll learn about later, actually tried the case. I think he was the president of the NCAA at the time, or NAACP. Sorry if I said NCAA, that's sports. NAACP, he was the leader of it at the time, and he was the lawyer for Oliver Brown and brought the case against Topeka and tried it in front of the Supreme Court. And I don't want to say this wrong. So Chief Justice Warren gave the conclusion from the Supreme Court, and this was a unanimous decision by all of the justices on the Supreme Court. And he concluded this, and I want to say it correctly. In the field of education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal, and that meant they were unconstitutional. And that's what the Supreme Court does. It just basically tells you if something's constitutional or not. So they struck down the doctrine of separate but equal that was put forth in Plessy versus Ferguson. Now, if you thought that that was going to be the end of it, it was not. The southern states fought back against it. They actually threatened to close down their schools instead of integrating them because they want to keep them segregated. And if you can imagine that, just closing down your business because you don't want a race of people in there anymore, that's just insane to think of, to me, not to some people. But they were threatening to close down their schools. They tried to open all-white private schools. One case was in Little Rock. So in Little Rock, Arkansas, days after the decision for Brown versus Board of Education, the school board of Little Rock started enrolling black children. And that was just the city, the school board of Little Rock, that allowed that. There was 9 African Americans that were going to go to school in Little Rock, and the day before they were going to start attending the school, the governor of Arkansas sent in the National Guard and barricaded the school to not allow those students to go to school there. The 9 students became known as the Little Rock 9. On their way to school, they were yelled at. They had stuff thrown at them. Their way was blocked, and they eventually got turned back. So Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was the president at the time, got involved and he actually took over the Arkansas National Guard and actually sent in the 104th Airborne out of North Carolina, out of Kentucky. Yeah, 101's in Kentucky. To go down there and escort them, or those 9 students, to school. And this was in 1957. So in September 25th, 1957, the Little Rock 9 entered the school to start the integration process of becoming a white and black school. And that was just because of President Eisenhower that was upholding what the Supreme Court said. Georgia's response to all this was the same as most southern states. They wanted to keep their segregated schools. A man by the name of, his last name was Ward, he tried to enroll in the law department or law school at UGA, and he was denied. And actually the state legislature of Georgia said if the colleges tried to integrate their schools, they would lose state funding. So the state of Georgia actually was going to cut off funding to a university like UGA, which was, I don't know if it was the biggest one back then, but it is now, if they allowed any black students to attend their schools or enroll. That's crazy to think of now, but it shows you how far some people go to keep their ways and their mindsets. And this is why we had to learn about all of those people before, all those racist people before. Now you can see how much they were still trying to keep that way about them, but now people are fighting back against them. Jay eventually allowed black students to enroll. The two, I just know their last names. I should know their full names. If you want to know their full names, they're in it. But Hunter and Holmes, they were the first 2 black students to enroll in UGA and go there. And that was in 1961. At this time, the integration of Atlanta public schools started happening. It was more peaceful than most because of the mayor at the time. Georgia also instituted what was called the Sibley Commission. All right, the Sibley Commission was a commission that was set up to see how people felt about integrating the schools. Even though the mass majority of Georgia went one way, they decided that they should integrate, but the Sibley Commission also came up with ways to slow down the process of integrating the schools. It was just one of the things that happened in Georgia. All right, this has been Challenging Segregation, Brown v. Board of Education, Topeka. Hope you enjoyed it.